I can still picture the night I discovered the truth. It began like any other quiet evening, the kind that starts unremarkably and ends up changing everything. Raindrops pattered softly on the glass, and the scent of fresh coffee lingered through the kitchen. I just returned from work when I noticed her phone glowing on the counter. Normally, I wouldn't even glance, but that night, something, instinct or exhaustion, pulled me toward it. A message flashed across the screen from a name I didn't recognize. Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about you. I read it again. And again. The world didn't crash down. It simply dimmed, like someone had lowered the brightness on my life. My wife, Anna, the woman I'd loved for 9 years, trusted for 10, had betrayed both. When she walked in, dripping from the rain, she smiled like nothing was wrong. That smile once meant comfort. Now it felt like a lie wearing her face. Calmly, I asked, "Whose? Michael?" She froze. Her lips parted, then shut tight. The silence gave me my answer before her words did. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, placing her purse down like we were arguing over dishes. But we both knew. The argument that followed wasn't loud. It was sharp, hushed, the kind that bleeds beneath the surface. Her eyes darted down, her voice cracked, each sentence a half-truth. She said it was harmless. Just messages. Just confusion. That it meant nothing. But it meant everything. Lies rot the roots of love, and no amount of apology can grow trust back once it's gone. I didn't shout, didn't throw a thing. I just said I needed air and stepped into the rain. It drenched me, but the cold water felt cleaner than the air inside. I walked for hours, no aim, no thoughts, only the dull ache in my chest. When I came back, she was on the couch, eyes swollen, tissues strewn like snow. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I made a mistake. I still love you." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But once you've seen a crack in the glass, you can't pretend it's whole. The next morning, I packed a bag. She didn't stop me. Maybe she knew nothing she said could fix it now. As I shut the door, pain and peace collided in my chest, like walking away from a fire that once felt like home. Days blurred into weeks. I found a small apartment across town, slept on a squeaky couch, buried myself in work, the gym empty, routines, anything to drown out the echo of that night. Friends said I'd done the right thing. Maybe I had, but doing right doesn't always feel like healing. Sometimes, when the city quieted, I thought of her, of our first date, when she spilled coffee on me and laughed until her eyes shone, of the nights she fell asleep on my chest, of how something so beautiful could fade so quietly. 2 months later, I opened my mailbox and froze. No return address, but I knew her handwriting. My heart stumbled as I turned the envelope over. It smelled faintly of her perfume, the one I'd tried to forget. I sat there for minutes staring. Part of me wanted to toss it away. Another part, the foolish, still loving part, needed to. No. I tore it open. Her letter began simply, no apology. No excuses. "If you're reading this, you haven't erased me completely. I don't deserve that mercy, but I hope you'll grant me these few minutes." The ink trembled, as though each word carried its own guilt. I exhaled and read on. "You always said honesty mattered more than perfection. I wish I'd remembered that before I ruined us. What you saw on my phone that night wasn't what it seemed, but it wasn't clean either. I didn't betray you the way your mind must have pictured it, but I did lie, and somehow that feels even worse." I paused, my heart beat tight against my ribs. Michael was someone from work. He noticed me when I felt invisible beside you. "That's not your fault," she wrote. "It's something I should have spoken about instead of running from. But I let the attention feel like warmth And that warmth became a need. I liked who I was in, his eyes, and that terrified me because I should have only wanted to be seen that way by you. Her words landed like soft detonations, not loud, but deep enough to expose the truth. Beneath the ruin, nothing physical happened, she admitted. Not that it made any difference. The damage was already done, the secrecy, the messages, the smiles that belonged to someone else. I ended it the moment you found out, but by then, it was too late. You didn't just lose trust, you lost the version of me who made you feel safe, and I don't know how to find her again. I leaned back, staring at the letter. The silence of my apartment hummed around me, fragile and cold. For weeks, I'd painted her as the villain in my mind, a liar, the architect of my heartbreak. But reading her words, I realized something. She wasn't cruel. She was human, imperfect, afraid, lonely in her own quiet way. I kept reading. After you left, I started therapy. I learned love doesn't always collapse from betrayal. Sometimes, it just fades from neglect. I stopped thanking you. You stopped holding me. We both stood still, waiting for the other to move first. I know this letter won't fix what's broken. I'm not asking you to come back. I just need you to understand, the woman you loved didn't vanish. She just lost herself beneath the weight of her own fear. By the time I reached the last lines, my eyes burned. If you ever think of me, please don't remember the lie. Remember the woman who finally learned why truth matters. I'll always love you, even from far away. Be happy, Lucas. You deserve peace. It ended with a tiny heart drawn beside her name, just like she used to scribble on lunchbox notes. I sat there for a long time, the letter resting on my lap. No grand music, no dramatic closure. Just stillness, heavy and honest. For the first time since that night, I didn't feel anger or pity, only understanding. A quiet acceptance that love doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes, it means knowing when to let go with grace. A week later, I drove past our old house. It was up for sale, the sign swaying gently in the wind. I stood at the gate, remembering how she'd wave from the porch when I came home. I didn't step in. I didn't need to. The ghosts there had already spoken their last words. As I turned to leave, I slipped her letter back into the mailbox, tucked behind a note I'd written on a torn receipt. Asterisk, you were right. It was never about perfection. It was always about honesty. I hope you find yours, and I'll try to keep mine. Asterisk. Then I walked away, not bitter, not broken. Just quiet, calm, forgiven. Because sometimes, closure isn't found in apologies or returns. It's found in understanding that some endings can still be beautiful, even when they're final.